Kirby's always been a bit of a softie, what with his irresistible adorability and unbelievable elasticity, but this time the gaming industry's most famous ball of fluff has taken his softness to a whole new and more literal level. This is Kirby's Epic Yarn, and this game's so much fun, it's bound to, leave you in stitches. Developed by the same studio behind the quirky Wii platformer Wario Land Shake It, Kirby's Epic Yarn is a natural evolution of the philosophies behind that 2008 Wario game. It's an old-school two-dimensional platformer, a flatformer as I affectionately call them, with a new-school 2D art style. Only this time, the style goes beyond just aesthetic appeal. This time it's weaved into the fabric of the gameplay itself, and the result is really something special. You can't talk about the gameplay that makes up Kirby's Epic Yarn without talking about the spectacular art style that makes up the gameplay. You see, Kirby's been sucked into a strange world known as Patchland, a place where everything around him is made from arts and crafts supplies. Whether strolling through the grasslands or burrowing through a volcano, the game's environments are simply sheets of fabric, and the playable terrain, mostly just bits of cloth, is actually sewn onto the backgrounds. This patchwork visual approach is stitched into the inhabitants as well. The characters you meet, both friend and foe, are usually just a few tiny pieces of string. And of course, during his stay in Patchland, so is Kirby. As little more than a pair of eyes and a scrap of pink yarn, Kirby's lost his trademark suction ability, and for this game, that's where the needle meets the thread. Armed with a small, whip-like piece of string, Kirby can literally pull his enemies to threads. He can also roll them into tiny balls of yarn and toss them toward other enemies, effectively turning his foes into stringer missiles that explode with adorable little puffs of buttons and cloth. Without the digestive ability that has defined Kirby games since 1993, Kirby's Epic Yarn goes for a new gameplay design that feels just as fresh as it looks. But it's about more than just combat. Kirby can tear pieces of cloth away from the background to uncover new areas. He can pull open zippers to access areas behind the fabric. See, the style is about more than just a pretty look. It actually becomes a seamless part of the gameplay. You'll want to pull every loose thread you see just to see what happens, and that's fantastic game design. Of course, from a purely visual perspective, it's also flat out gorgeous. Kirby's Epic Yarn is yet another example of style and creativity transcending hardware limitations. Further proof that a stunning and memorable looking game doesn't necessarily require 1080p. Much more important than the pixels on the screen is the vision behind it. And regardless of platform, the graphics in Kirby's Epic Yarn are as beautiful as they are remarkably functional. As you might expect, given the game's tone, Kirby's Epic Yarn isn't exactly the most challenging game on Wii. In fact, Kirby can't even die, so beating the levels isn't really much of a hurdle. Rather, at its core, this is a game about collecting objects. The real challenge of each level is to find all the hidden treasures and collect enough beads to earn a gold medal. In that sense, it's kinda like the Super NES classic Yoshi's Island, only it's even less difficult. In fact, there definitely seems to be a Yoshi's Island influence in Kirby's Epic Yarn. In addition to having a checklist of hidden items to collect in each level, Kirby can also transform into different vehicles in designated areas, just like Yoshi, and that really gives the game a strong sense of variety. Throw in tons of unlockables, side quests, and Kirby's Pad, which you can decorate with the items you find and share on your Wii message board, and you've got a surprising amount of content for the single-player experience. However, playing with a friend is one of the game's strongest selling points. Kirby's Epic Yarn features a cooperative multiplayer mode in which a friend can jump in at any time, and the game's even more fun with 2 players. This may be a traditional platformer, but at the same time it's also refreshingly original. It feels very much like a Kirby game, filled with plenty of references and throwbacks to older titles, but there's never really been a Kirby game quite like it. Easily one of the best and most creative games on Wii, Kirby's Epic Yarn is, quite frankly, the rarest kind of release. A game so thoroughly well designed that every aspect is almost perfectly and almost seamlessly stitched together.